Love, not hate, makes America great. Love, not hate, makes America great.
Welcome to Truth to Power for You. I'm your host, Brian Kasher. Truth to Power for You is a mini-series produced for organizers and people like you, people who want to improve the human condition. While the corporate media is generating profits covering the daily distractions, Truth to Power for You, we're about organizing for action. This episode's featured changemaker is Rhiannon Fionn, fondly known as the Coal Ash Queen. Rhiannon shares her experience documenting the impacts of coal ash on people and communities all across America. Really good interview. If you don't know Rhiannon, and even if you do, good information, great information. This episode's musical guests are Jeremiah Chapman and Joel Siegel with their number, Green Revolution. All right. We also visit with Anthony Denisi, who discusses his first time ever organizing a successful rally. Well, really it was a counter rally. Anthony shares the nuts and bolts about how he and others successfully pulled together this wonderful counter rally in just a few days. Before bringing on Rhiannon, I wanted to emphasize that you can help out Truth to Power for You simply by liking our Facebook page and or commenting about what issues are important where you're from. You know, we're not corporate produced, we're micromedia. We really do want to hear from you. The only way your friends or like-minded colleagues will get this video is if you share it with them, right? There is, by choice, no corporate marketing machine or funding with Truth to Power for You. By choice. Okay. Rhiannon Fionn is a University of North Carolina graduate and award-winning journalist who, since 2009, has been reporting on coal ash and its impacts. Rhiannon has traveled from coast to coast documenting community conditions and interviewing people, real people, impacted by coal ash-related conditions. Rhiannon's work is documented through the written word, photography, and also videos posted throughout the internet. And a feature-length documentary is also in the works. Really good work. So, here's our interview with the Coal Ash Queen, Rhiannon Fionn. Hello, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, you bet, glad to have you. What triggered your interest in coal ash?
I was freelancing for what was the Mountain Island Monitor, and they got a press release from the EPA. It was about high hazard coal ash ponds, and there were 2 on Mountain Island Lake, upstream from our drinking water intake. The land where the coal plant and coal ash ponds actually are was part of a treaty between the Catawba Indians and the Cherokee Indians. It was where they hunted together peacefully. So it was a peaceful place, but we've always gotten our water there. I mean, you know, part of why settlers were attracted to Charlotte was because of the streams and rivers around here. So that's where we've always gotten our water. So it is kind of a head scratcher to think, you know, somewhere in the 1950s, after getting our water there for 10,000 years or something, somewhere in the 1950s, they're like, I know, we need to put this industrial waste somewhere.
One of the buzz phrases I'd hear out and about is the solution to pollution
is dilution.
Is dilution.
Right.
And this is a prime case where, you know, highly toxic heavy metals and other contaminants are literally poured directly into the drinking water source. Mm-hmm. And the answers I've heard, I think you may have published it sometimes, the solution to pollution is dilution.
I have, and you know, it was the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. Now it's the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. They used to say that all the time, and I would quote them every single time they said it, because it's, I mean, I get that that's kind of the industry speak, but when you're talking about people's main drinking water, I mean, the main drinking water reservoir for the largest city in our state, right. I don't think the solution to pollution is dilution. I think there's a different solution.
You've done a great job nationally of bringing attention to this issue, and yet we can still go out and find people who have no clue.
Really, when I first got assigned the story, I didn't know that Mountain Island Lake was our main drinking water reservoir. It was when I realized that I was like, okay, well, I'm going to stick with this as long as it takes.
Could you share a little bit about your experience with your travels, the type of things, the type of conditions that you've seen, and the people that you've talked to?
There have been a lot of really heartbreaking interviews. One that really touched me a lot, which actually isn't going to end up in my film because it's a long story. He is dealing with massive coal pollution, but it isn't necessarily coal ash. But it's this farmer, this pecan farmer, whose family had been farming this same land for hundreds of years. And I think it was more than 200 years. And that's where they made their living. That's all that they knew. These trees to them were almost members of their families. And he ended up with the largest brain tumor known at the time. And his father-in-law killed himself because their trees were dying, and they could, with all of this knowledge and history and experience, they could not figure out why the trees were dying. And it turns out effluent from the plant was like running right through their property, and air pollution situation. So it's a very complicated kind of coal situation. Now, whether you're talking air or water or whatever, and whether you're talking about mining waste versus coal ash, we're talking about a lot of the same constituents. So what was making them sick and the trees sick? And it's awful. You go to the orchard now and it's dead trees, 360 of dead trees.
After hundreds of years
of really knowing this business.
Wow.
They went from basically making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year selling pecans to he now works in local government. So not there's anything wrong with local government, but it's gone. Mm-hmm. Their family's entire livelihood is gone.
That's really sad. How are people in different parts of the country responding to these issues?
Well, I think it's like a lot of different things. Most people aren't paying attention until it's at their doorstep, and or they're sick, or somebody they know is sick, or they're damaged in some way. And I think that's the case with coal ash. That's the case with almost every big controversial issue like this.
Sure.
People just don't even know what to do with it. And then the first thing that I think most of them experience is just being overwhelmed because there's so much information out there. Mm-hmm. And it's really complicated and scientific oftentimes. And a lot of times these people are living in rural areas. They may, one community in Uniontown, Alabama, a large percentage of them are illiterate. And they had a coal ash landfill moving right across the street from them.
That sounds recent. They had a coal ash move in across the street from them.
Yes. What brought this all to light was the Tennessee Valley Authority spill in 2008. It happened right before Christmas in 2008. And so when they were cleaning it up, they had to take it somewhere. Well, where they took it was to the second poorest county in Alabama, which is...
Isn't that the truth?
Really saying something.
Yes, it is.
And so they took it to the second poorest, mostly black county in Alabama, and literally put it right across the street from people's homes. I've been to their homes. I've been in their homes. They've been very gracious and sweet to me. And when you open the door, you're looking right at the landfill. And it's not just coal ash now. They can accept special waste from, I think it's 33 states.
Special waste, so that would include asbestos.
It includes all kinds of interesting things. The landfill operators have actually been quite forthcoming with me. They've shared a lot of documentation. They've taken me on a tour. And of course, the neighbors of the landfill call it a mountain because to them it's a mountain. It's relatively flat in that area, and it is like I've watched it myself. I don't want to suggest that they're not doing their utmost.
Right. It's a lined landfill.
Still landfill that accepts municipal waste. So you've got the smell, you've got the vultures, you've got the wild dogs that come with all that. And so it was put right across the street from these people who really didn't know that it was coming. Because of circumstances, they are not wealthy people, and they're not, they don't really have the time, and some of them don't have the skills, meaning like they're not able to read, to be able to look into some of these issues. So for instance, when the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights took up the coal ash issue, this landfill was really important to the commission. They wanted to know a lot about it. And when the EPA was testifying, they kept saying, Well, this, they would ask, is this information available? Well, yes, it's available on our website. Well, so they asked me to testify, so when I testified, I was like, that's not good enough. First of all, a lot of these people don't have internet access. Second of all, they can't read. So you need to find a better way.
It's not uncommon for public policy makers and others to find it the solution to be to either create landfills or other situations where poorer populations are the ones who take the brunt of our waste.
Yeah.
Or, chemical dumps.
They used to call them sacrifice zones. They don't really do that anymore. But if you look back in older paperwork documents, you'll see that these areas were called sacrifice zones. This used to be a thriving African American town, and now it's not. And it will probably never be again.
I'm going to look more into that.
Well, let me tell you what just happened with it. So the people in Uniontown took to Facebook to complain in some sense. Mm-hmm. And then the landfill operator sued these people, whose average income is about $8,000 a year, sued them for $30 million.
It's claiming lost revenue or something.
It's something akin to that. And that was recently dropped.
Is it, one or two people who have been sick that you've run into?
No. So a good example would be Bocoshi, Oklahoma. When I was there, the locals took me for a drive around town, and for half the time they were going, pointing at people's houses going, that person's dead, that person's dead, that person has cancer. And, that was the first time that happened to me, but it was not the last time that happened to me. And it's really disturbing that, you start to classify your population as who's sick, who's dying, you know what I mean? And that's what's happening in some of these communities.
Those with the money and those with the power are getting richer and richer, and those without are taking the brunt, are being exposed.
And then, so there's this thing where people go, well, why don't they just move? Well, let me explain. Somebody said this to me about the people in Uniontown, and it really just set me off because, number one, that land was bequeathed to them following the Emancipation Proclamation. Their families have literally been on that land since before they can remember. And so this is their land. These are their farms. They're telling me that their cattle are failing to thrive and things like that. And so let's go a step beyond that. What are they going to sell their land for now? It's right across the street from a giant landfill that's accepting municipal waste and special waste and coal ash. So where exactly should these poor people move? First of all, they don't have much of an income. They don't have much of an education. This is where they've always been. Why is it that they should move?
Let's say somebody's got an issue, whether it's coal ash or hexavalent chromium is showing up in their water. What advice would you give to someone watching the program who's got it in their heart to do something? They just don't have any clue what to do.
Yeah, that's tough because I think we've seen this here in Charlotte recently with people getting mad at city council for something they have no control over. And so I see that happening around the country too. People, this issue comes to their doorstep and then they go to their city council and then the county and then the state and then the feds, and they really think the government's going to have their back. I mean, they just really cannot believe that this would happen to them and that their government would let this happen to them. So I would say one of the most important things is to figure out who the right person to talk to is. It gets confusing.
Know the right person to talk to.
So the other thing I would say would be to be kind. At some point you have to recognize that a lot of these officials are bound by whatever law is currently their law.
What kind of roadblocks or challenges do you find that, people might find along the way when they decide to do similar things like you're doing?
I spent many nights sleeping in my car to make all this happen. I've done a lot of couch surfing. I mean, one of the things that's really helped me out a lot is that so many people have taken me into their homes so that I wouldn't have to spend money on a hotel or sleep in my car. So many people have fed me meals or made me meals or, thrown a little money our way when we needed it.
I'm hearing about the independence you're also a small business owner.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
all the facets that go into that. And I recently, at a HK on J march in Raleigh, I got a chance to catch up with Kojo Nentambu of NAACP. And, you know, I kind of asked him, I said, Kojo, you know, what can people do? What can people do in situations when we're being oppressed or our rights are being taken away? And he looked right at me and he goes, you got to join an organization. If you can't find an organization that's doing what you need done, start your own.
Yeah.
Do what you start your own in your house. And that was his point. It's like you're the living proof that it's possible, it can work, and
just don't expect it to be easy.
Well, easy, and you know, if what you're after, you know, I find people who are working for the common good, their goal isn't necessarily to become independently wealthy.
No, I'm not motivated by money at all. I feel like this work that I'm doing is really my gift to this community. It's this is where I get a little bit misty, because it is, you know, this is my time. I've now exchanged 8 years of my life.
And on that note, how can folks help you out? You know, how can they find out what's going on?
CoalAshChronicles.com will lead you to all of our social media.
I'm a more educated citizen on the topic of coal ash because of your work. I really am. And I thank you for that. And I hope more people take an opportunity to learn about what you're doing and get involved.
Thank you. I thank you for doing this.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay?
Yeah.
Rhiannon's work can be viewed on Vimeo, YouTube, Tumblr, and more with a simple web search on Coal Ash Chronicles. Our next interview is with Anthony Denisi, who, though he had never organized a rally before, organized a very successful counter-Trump rally in his hometown. But before visiting with Anthony, we have a musical number by Jeremiah Chapman and Joel Siegel. You know, both of these folks are former congressional staffers and, to this day, serve as active and very successful organizers for the common good. But here's the thing. Organizing is not only about passing out flyers, knocking on doors, writing legislation, or attending rallies and all that stuff. Successful organizers know how to have fun and add a human element to the work of organizing. Very important. Very important. We all have our hearts invested in our issues, and you got to remember to have some fun. So, on that note, here's Green Revolution by two of the hardest working organizers in the field, Joel Siegel and Jeremiah Chapman.
The supreme reality of our time is our indivisibility as children of God and the common vulnerability of this planet.
It's that green revolution, mankind's evolution, yeah. Green revolution, yeah. Till we stop in the pollution, and that's what we got solutions. It's a green revolution, yeah. Cause it's a green revolution, yeah. While this poverty reducing, gotta win, then we can't afford the losing. Evolution, it's a green revolution, yeah. Cause it's a green revolution.
Unmistakable evidence has established the fact.
It's a green revolution, mankind's evolution, yeah. Green revolution, yeah. Till we stop in the pollution, and that's what we got solutions. It's a green revolution, yeah. Cause it's a green revolution, yeah. While this poverty reducing, gotta win, then we can't afford the losing. Evolution, it's a green revolution, yeah. Cause it's a green revolution.
Unmistakable evidence has established the fact.
It's a green revolution, mankind's evolution, yeah. Green revolution, yeah. Till we stop in the pollution, and that's what we got solutions. It's a green revolution, yeah. Cause it's a green revolution, yeah. While this poverty reducing, gotta win, then we can't afford the losing. Evolution, it's a green revolution, yeah. Cause it's a green revolution.
Unmistakable evidence has established the fact.
It's a green revolution, mankind's evolution, yeah. Green revolution, yeah. Till we stop in the pollution, and that's what we got solutions. It's a green revolution, yeah. Cause it's a green revolution, yeah. While this poverty reducing, gotta win, then we can't afford the losing. Evolution, it's a green revolution, yeah. Cause it's a green revolution.
Peace on planet and peace on the planet. People, land, and peace over profit.
People, planet, and peace over profit.
People, land, and peace over profit.
People, planet, and peace over profit.
People, land, and peace over profit.
Yeah.
What it's all about, folks. Gotta have some fun. Mix it up a little bit. It's we got to do hard work. We got to have our hearts in it, but have some fun. All right. Next up, impromptu organizing. Anthony Denisi felt the call to organize a counter rally outside a planned Trump rally in his hometown. While Anthony had never done this before, in just a few short days, people from across the state showed up, making a collective statement that the direction and rhetoric of the current administration simply does not represent hometown American values.
Love, not hate, makes America great. Love, not hate, makes America great.
Hey, welcome. You know, this assembly happened so quickly. Have you organized anything like this before?
No, absolutely not. Not even close. This was just totally organic, 100% grassroots.
What happened that inspired you to pull this event together?
So apparently one of the people that I communicate with on Twitter that's part of the Indivisible group had gotten a message from another user from across the country saying that they were having a Trump rally in Stumptown Park in Matthews, North Carolina. And basically we had a few tweet exchanges with a few other people. There was maybe 5-6 of us, and those 5 or 6 of us just said, all right, well, you know, let's do something to have an opposition against them. I originally imagined the 5 or 6 of us standing across the street from the rally with a couple signs, and obviously that changed pretty quickly.
How long were you all organizing this?
You know, we had a solid 5 days to organize it. Pretty much everything, Twitter, Facebook. We didn't even know each other. I've never met any of these people in my entire life. I didn't meet them until Saturday afternoon.
You know, how'd you do it?
Sure. So at first we talked about, you know, maybe getting some kind of image or some kind of, you know, flyer printed up. And, you know, we talked about, oh, well, maybe this person can help us, maybe this person, let me reach out to this person. And this was on Monday afternoon. At this point, I knew we didn't have very much time. So I Googled flyer making website, and I made it myself. I said, I'm just going to make it. We got to get this out there. So in the meantime, while I was working on that, they were working on contacting the police, seeing what we needed, if we needed permits, where we needed to stand, etc. So literally the moment that was verified with the chief of police or the police captain, that image started to go out. Facebook event was created, started going out on Twitter, started joining Charlotte progressive groups, and I was like, we got to get this image out as much as possible. We made some actual paper flyers, hung some of those up, and basically just networked with who we knew or who we didn't know, as I didn't know them whatsoever, but, you know.
Did you get a check from George Soros?
No organization, you know, came and paid us for this event.
One of the things I noticed, you were very articulate. When it comes to being interviewed, how did that feel? What was that all about?
I thought maybe there was a chance I'd be interviewed, so I had like maybe 2 sentences of what I would possibly say on the news, and I ended up going on for about 4 minutes. So we're not worried. We're here. We're American citizens. We're the majority. You know, I haven't really practiced arguing, debating, or trying to persuade anyone of anything, but you know, it just came from the heart, I guess.
How did it feel? I stood right here on this sidewalk and looked up the way here and saw, you know, this whole sidewalk packed with people and creative signs with their messages. And when you got here, and you mentioned you didn't know anybody, but all these people, I mean, there was a lot of people here.
Honestly, at that point, it was kind of a whirlwind of emotions and energy, and I was trying to get my message out there and our message out there to the people driving by, the people walking by. And in fact, we got a lot of people that said, hey, we just passed by, we heard you guys, we saw you guys, we live down the street, and we decided to join you. And so, you know, later I got to talk to people like, hey, you know, how'd you find out? How'd you get here? And some of those people said that. So, I wanted to spread the message to the people driving by, and in fact, from the street, you really couldn't see what was going on inside the park, and we were standing outside the park. So I think, if you were a drive-by person and you would say, oh, well, hey, it's an anti-Trump protest. There's no Trump rally there.
How were the police here?
They were all really receptive, and actually, after we had interactions with the police captain, I was hoping there would be a decent police presence because sometimes our opposition that was here, I don't know how comfortable a lot of us felt with them. In fact, when we started organizing this in the first place, I was like, I don't know, what if someone's violent to us?
I got your friggin' right. He's up for 8 years. Lock it up for 8 years. He's a racist.
And that was obviously a concern. So I was really happy that they were here. They were receptive. They said, if you need anything, go to X officer and let us know if you need anything. They gave us a lot of space. They weren't intimidating to anyone, and they were overall watching the situation really well.
For the person sitting out there who enjoys the story but isn't quite sure they could pull something like this off, what kind of advice would you have for them?
Why not? We've all felt like that at some point. And in fact, that was me on Monday, like, oh, should I get involved? No, maybe I won't get involved. And I was like, why not? It's like, hey, if there's 6 of us across the street, like, am I really going to look like that much of an idiot to the people driving by? You know what? I don't care. This is democracy. And, at some point, you need to lace up your boots and get out there and do what you believe is right and moral.
We make expression on the street. We change the future by affecting public policy. And I hope that's a direction you'll take up in the future, all right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Immigrants are welcome here. No hate, no fear. Immigrants are welcome here. No hate, no fear. Immigrants are welcome here. No hate. We did. Who won the popular vote? We did.
All right. Well, that's it for today. Please comment in the comment section to know what you're thinking about. Again, this program is not produced for a mass audience. We're produced for you. So we really do want to hear what's up in your area, what's going on, what are your issues. And on that note, you can help us out by sharing this program on your timeline, or liking our Facebook page, or going to our YouTube and commenting. But if you do like our Facebook page, you'll be notified each time one of these segments is released. Closing for us today is Nashville's own songstress of the people, Annie DeChant, with her meaningful song, Out There. Just a wonderful, wonderful tune of the ages. Do you have a meaningful song or poem or artwork you'd like to share with the Truth to Power for You community? If so, message us. We are always looking for original artworks, poetry, musical numbers to feature on the program. Everything we put out here is original, folks. So, hey, see you next time, and do something. Hey, get out there.
People thought they were off their rockers. They'd never get that airplane off the ground. Till one morning out in Kitty Hawk in that Carolina sky, she flew 12 seconds before she came back down. Then people thought the sky was the limit, that going to the moon could not be done. But when the eagle landed, that brave space cowboy took one small step and proved everybody wrong. Out there, dancing on a wire, out there, running through the fire. They ain't afraid to fall, they live to risk it all. If you're gonna do a lot, then you gotta be a little out there. A seamstress from Montgomery, Alabama, stayed seated on a bus and took a stand. That brazen little move caused a revolution. She broke every boundary when she wouldn't budge an inch. So if you think that you won't make a difference, that what you're trying to prove is too bizarre. Remember, it's the dreamers, the do-or-die believers that march right into history just being who they are. Out there, dancing on a wire, out there, running through the fire. They ain't afraid to fall, they live to risk it all. If you're gonna do a lot, then you gotta be a little out there. Busting down the fences out there. Damn the consequences. Let's live to risk it all and don't be afraid to fall. If we're gonna do a lot, then we gotta be a little out there. People thought they were off their rocker.
Nice.
Thank you.